going? Everything's good. All right, everybody. We are going to go ahead and get started here this morning. We have a special guest with us this morning, Donnie Stubblefield from Casas for Cristo, a ministry you might have heard of before. Their director is Scott DeWitt, and he's a local guy. And in fact, my first experience with this ministry was back when I was at D-Land, and Scott was speaking for area men's back when we were all still across the road. And that was my first experience with Lane Christian Church. It was a packed house. I walked into that building, and I'm sitting there going, Jim, how do you fit everybody in here on a Sunday morning? But Donnie is with us. He's one of the guys that leads the teams down. And we had an interesting connection. He called me out of the blue one day here, 2 years ago, something like that. Said, hey, I'm in town. Can I take you to lunch? Hey, I'm a preacher. You had me at lunch. And so we sat down and we're visiting, and he's telling me about what they do. Come to find out, the guy grew up 15 miles from me. And we had mutual friends that we didn't even know about, so it tells you how small the world is. But we're excited to have Donnie here with us. He's going to share about the ministry this morning. He's going to preach for us. But I'm going to be quiet because you don't get to listen to me all the time. So, Donnie, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Morning. So I move around a lot. I have been a youth pastor for 30 years. So I just find, especially working with teenagers, it's hard for them to hit a moving target. So I keep going the whole time. So I am with Casas for Cristo. I have been building with them since 1997. Is when I got started. One of our teenagers, she wanted to use her Spanish, and she asked, "Can we go build with Casas?" Or she asked, "Can we go on to Latin America?" I gave her a flyer from Casas and said, "Here, why don't you give him a call and then let me know how the interview goes." She interviewed him and felt this is where God was calling us to go, and she was right. We have been blessed, and actually we've been building with the same pastor now for the last 27 years. So we'll be going down to his daughter. We've been down for his wedding. It was the pastor's son. Went down for Danny's wedding. Then went down for his daughter's quinceañera. And this year going down, he has two daughters that are one's graduating high school, the other is graduating college. So it's a blessing to have short-term missions, but to have long-term relationships. So I want to start this morning, if you wouldn't mind, with Exodus 17. If you want to get your Bibles out in front of you, now I'm going to read it from here. Exodus 17, verse 8. It says, Then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. So Moses said to Joshua, Choose for us men and go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with the staff of God in my hand. So Joshua did as Moses told him and fought with Amalek, while Moses, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. Whenever Moses held up his hand, Israel prevailed, and whenever he lowered the staff, Amalek prevailed. But Moses' hands grew weary, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it, while Aaron and Hur held up his hands, one on one side, the other on the other side. So his hands were steady until the going down of the sun. And Joshua overwhelmed Amalek and his people with the sword. And Moses built an altar and called the name of it, The Lord is my banner, saying, A hand upon the throne of the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. Now, the reason that I open with that is because this is really the heart of what Casas is all about. And a big part of that, Pastor, is because of Scott DeWitt. Yeah. Scott came down at his hardest for discipleship, and I was on the board at the time, and when we hired Scott, it was for that we didn't, we're not in the house building business, okay? We are in the kingdom building business. It is our desire for people to get connected to Jesus and to grow in their faith. The way to do that is you have to work with the local pastor. Scott shared this with me, and it just has resonated. This is what Casas is about. So you have Moses telling Joshua, hey, we're being attacked. I need you to go down, and I'm going to take the other two, and we're going to go up on top of the hill. So they go up on top of the hill, and as long as Moses is holding up the staff of God, they're winning. But if you've ever had to hold your hands up for very long, it's pretty tiresome. The battle's going all day long, And as the battle's going on, Moses is getting tired. He's getting wore out. Arms are shaking. I'm sure he's trying everything he can to hold that up. And before you know it, as his arms are coming down, Joshua loses. So Aaron and Hur, I like this. They find a big rock and they set him on a big rock. Rather than stand there and then everybody has to hold up their arms, they go and say, okay, well, how about let's just sit him down and we'll both hold up his arms. And they do. They set him down, arms are up, and Joshua wins the battle. That's what Casas is all about. It's our desire to come up alongside the local pastors with Lane Christian on one side, Casas on the other, to hold up the arms of the local pastor so that he can win the battle. So to me, it's, you go back to that story and you look, I'll be honest with you, you see Aaron's in there. Aaron's the older brother. If your little brother's just too weak to hold it up, wouldn't you just want to take it out of his hand and say, okay, you win, I'll hold it up. Okay? But that's wrong. Casas doesn't take the staff out of the hands of the local pastor. They come up alongside and say, how can we equip them? And that's what the house building is all about. It's actually giving this pastor a local tool of outreach in the community. So that when you come down and you share the gospel with this family, that you're connecting them not just to the body, just to the person of Jesus Christ, but also to the body of Jesus Christ. So that they have someone who can walk with them and disciple them. Casas has been all about this. This has been their heart, and that's why I've been building with them for the last 27 years, is because it is about kingdom building. So, how do we go about doing that? So, people in the, I'm just going to open up and flip through. Everything goes through the local pastor. Everything we do happens with him. We will be down building houses, and people will ask us for an application because they'll see our trucks. They'll see us out there working and say, hey, can I have an application? In which case we tell them, yes, but here I need to go talk to Pastor Jim. Okay, I'm not going to hand it to him. I need to go to the local pastor. The idea behind that is they have to talk to him then to find out, okay, how do I fill out the form? Form's fairly detailed as to why they need a home, like how many people are going to be in the home. There's the contract explaining to them that you can't sell this house for the next 5 years. There's a long-term commitment. Other things in there, you have to own the land. In other words, they have to have skin in the game to have ownership with that. So with all that being said, what ends up happening is like, well, you have to have a deed, or you have to have some proof of ownership. Okay, they don't know how to get that. A lot of times they're questioning, well, where do I go? How do I make that? Well, go talk to Pastor. So again, they go back, Pastor then walks them through the process. A lot of times Pastor will go with them to City Hall to get the necessary papers, to get things worked out. So then after they come back, then that pastor, after they get the application back, will take it to our pastor's committee. In Acuna, and I'm going to keep referencing Acuna for what it's worth. Okay. Juarez, Juarez, we used to have 100 pastors on, and then the blessing is, I think it was 5 years ago, we fired them all. Yeah, so, and then started over. Because it got too big, and we wanted to make sure that they're actually doing what they're called to do, just to have the accountability. But anyhow, in Acuna, we work with about 32 different pastors now. They form a pastor's committee, and then that application is taken into the pastor's committee. And they'll go into the pastor's committee and say, hey, everybody here, can you tell me about Miss Nettie? And so at the pastor's committee, it's like they're going to get the background on her. Is she part of the community, or is she just a fly-by-night? Is this, well, because of the immigration, we get that. And it's just, you're not in the house. But that's the kind of, and the blessing is because there's all these hearts and everybody's part of the community, then they can speak into it. They can tell you, here's the background. Oh yeah, I've known her family's been here, for generations. So yeah, this is a solid family. They're part of our community. This is someone who would be worth investing into. So and then once that pastor gets that approval on the application, then he actually takes an application back out to talk to the family to let them know that yes, you will be getting a home. At that time, they'll receive a yellow plaque. The yellow plaque is nailed up, usually on the post or the structure that they have at the time. A lot of times, when you come to build, the people have homes that are built out of shipping pallets. They take shipping pallets, usually 2 high and like a 12 by 12, maybe 3 long, just a big square. Then they'll put cardboard on the outside after they nail them together, and then a lot of times it's a plastic tarp for a roof, maybe a blanket or something for a door. That's pretty standard for down there, which is a dirt floor. You guys saw that more, right? Yeah. It still hasn't changed a whole lot, as you go down with that kind of stuff. So the family now is waiting, and then as soon as as soon as Wayne Christian says, hey, we're coming, we want to go build a house, then the local pastor will go out to let them know, hey, your application's been approved. We have a team, and they're going to be here in about 6 months, just so these people will know. Okay. Then the week of the before the next step after that, about 3 months before, Casas will go out with a local pastor, and they interview the family. This is something that's just been added. They go out to interview the family, and then they will kind of edit it out, and then Casas will send that to the church, so that everyone in the church about a month before will be able to see, here's the family that you're building for, here's the pastor you're building with, and here's the places where you're staying. So it gives everybody a background, and that way the entire church can be involved in the building process. And part of the building process is just praying, making sure you're covering the team and everybody in prayer. So after that, then 2 weeks out, the pastor will say, hey, team's coming, they're going to be here June 15th, and it's June 1st. You need to somewhat level the site. I don't know how you're leveling the site was. Yeah, it's like, some of them, they do a pretty good job. I had one in Juarez years ago, and it was terrible. We were 15 inches out from one end to the other, and it was in sand, and it kept collapsing on the one end. So we actually had to do an overdig of 5 foot to keep it from collapsing back down on it. So yeah, that one. But thank God it was college students. So it's like, y'all get in there, you can make it happen. So the family tries to get it as close as they can, kind of get everything leveled out. And then 3 days before, Casas will actually deliver the material. Once the material is delivered, usually on Friday, you guys are coming in for Monday build. The family, someone has to sleep with material. Literally, so it doesn't get stolen. So, because when you show up that first day, like here's everything it needs to build that house. So here's all your plywood, the blackboard, all the boards, the sheet metal, the windows, doors, insulation, wiring, everything is stacked out there. So it's worth a chunk of change. So someone has to sleep with it to make sure that it's going to be there when the team gets there. So you guys, when you come down into Del Rio, you'll meet up with Scott and the team at our office, and then they take you over the border. Then they'll take you. Usually, you go right to the place where you're staying, and then you drop off your bedding and stuff like that. And then you grab your tools and you head out to the work site. Day 1, you get to the work site. As you show up on day 1, the cool thing with that is everything's in. And you get to meet the family. Hopefully, the local pastor will be out there day 1 sometime. They won't be there at 6:30 in the morning when you get there. But they will come out sometime during the day. You'll get a chance for everybody to stop and introduce yourselves to the pastor. And then after you open with devotions and prayer out at the site, you will actually start forming up for the concrete, and then you will another team will start cutting out all the boards. So that, depending on how bad the site is, usually concrete truck, and this is something new. They told me that you built it. So this is something completely new for anybody who's ever gone. Way back in the day, you poured it by hand. You dumped it all in the mixer, then they dumped everything, out on the ground, and it's like all the buckets. Remember all the bucket rash from putting those plastic buckets up and trying to get it into the hopper, and then you hit the edge of the hopper, and it spins that bucket right in your arm. So exactly. So you have all these people that have bucket rash. It's like you learn to lift it a little bit higher, so that doesn't happen. But now we don't do that for the Mexico locations. We do a concrete truck, and the reason for that is we just found that the families get a lot better looking floor if we do a concrete truck. Now, I mean, if you really want to pour it by hand, you can tell Casas you want to pour it by hand. We have to pay extra to pour it by hand, but yeah, you can do that. Now, there are some sites that are just absolutely terrible, and I mean, Casas is doing a lot, especially in Mexico. They'll even use pump trucks. If you can't get to the site, they'll bring in a pump truck. Yeah, up here we're thinking it's hundreds of dollars. A pump truck down there, $60. So it's like, it's worth $60. It's like, bring it in. It's like, so we had, this was my granddaughter. I always take my grandkids, when they turn 10, they get to go with Papa. So my Lexi's first build, when she turns 10, we got down there and they had the pump truck, we had the truck, they told us, it's a tough site. We got out there to the site, and the pump truck was there, the cement truck's there, and they looked at us, and there is nothing but a wall of electrical wires. So there is no way that we can use the pump truck. And the cement guy is like, there's no way I'm sitting here waiting for you to take it back, because the problem with this site was it was about 200 feet off the street, and you had about a 5-foot opening to go through. And then after you went back about 100 feet, there were steps that went up 4 feet, and then you went back. So we couldn't use wheelbarrows. So he was like, I'm not waiting. So that was the last time we had to pour one by hand. So we ended up on the fly going, okay, I guess we are going to pour this one by hand. So we called some other people and said, hey, Mom, why don't you send some of your team over here to help us? So the blessing is we were building 2 houses that week, and they got more in. But anyhow, typically day one, concrete trucks now. Concrete trucks going to be there about 11 o'clock, Mexico time. Yeah, you don't know if you're familiar with that. So it could be 11, it could be 3. But we usually tell them to get out there at 11. When you're in Mexico, that concrete is going to dry in about 3 hours. So they're going to shoot it out there, because it's 100. It's going to set. It won't get set. It's going to dry, but it'll set in 3 hours. So then you're out there putting the trowel on it, usually on your hands and knees doing that. Now, while all that's going on with the concrete, the team has cut out all the boards and they nail all the walls together. So everything will be nailed up, concrete will be poured, and you'll be exhausted at the end of day one. Very much looking forward to going back and having a good dinner. New thing that we've changed since then is Casa actually does a food plan. So when you come back, it's actually good food. So it's not sandwiches all the time. So you get to come back, and it is authentic Mexican food. It is fantastic. So highly recommend it. So after the end of day one, you go back, get washed up. This is good. I gotta add this. People in the past, when they went to Mexico, they went down into Juarez. You stayed at a church. You slept on a floor, correct? Right. Slept on the hard floor, and there was, if you were blessed, you had a swamp cooler, or at least a fan. Okay? A lot of times you didn't have either one of those, and you just laid in your sweat. And that's typical how the mission trip. Now, with Acuna, we have an arrangement now with a few of the churches to where we've helped them to kind of increase the quality of where teams are staying. So when you come in now, you have air conditioning, hot and cold showers, toilets that flush, but still can't put the paper in there. So, yeah. not that good. So, but massive improvement. Just being able to sleep in the air conditioning and get a good night's sleep is such a blessing. So after the dinner, you guys do devotions in bed. Usually it's in bed by 9 o'clock. Everybody's really tired because you're going to be back up the next morning about 5:30. Breakfast again. And breakfast is like sausage and eggs or pancakes or French toast. I mean, it's that with eggs. I mean, it's that kind of, it's like before it's a cereal, maybe, and a banana. A hot banana. They were this one. Bananas were always like, oh my goodness. How can you make a banana taste miserable? Warm it up to about 100 degrees and try to eat it. It's like, oh. So, after that, day 2, and this to me is the best day. I love day 2 because you walked out, you were exhausted. Now you come back day 2, you're rested up, you had a good night's sleep, and you stand the walls. So the team, it usually takes everybody on the team. You stand all the walls up, you get it leveled up, get it braced and everything. Then after that happens, the best part to me is now we need people on the outside, putting on the blackboard, the chicken wire, putting windows and doors, all that kind of stuff in. You need people on the inside that are going to be doing insulation. They'll do the electrical first, then the insulation and sheetrock. And then we have people on you need people on the roof. So everybody can stay as busy as you like. So on day 2, there's just, so with the roof system, it's putting up 2x6s across there with plywood, and then we put a metal roof on. We've gone to metal roofs instead of it's not the green roof anymore, so no tar babies. You always had somebody who had to do that. So now it's the all metal roof. So, and the blessing of that, that extends the roll roofing houses were maybe 15, 20 years if they replaced the roof and kept up with it. The new metal roofs, these houses can go out to 40, 50 years because of the roof. Biggest thing on that is they screw the metal down. The biggest thing is the wind. So they do a great job on that, and we've added extra now to help reduce any issues with that. So after the end of day 2, again, you can stay as busy as you want. When I take now I've got 3 granddaughters in the age 10 bracket. Lexi now has 4 bills under her lap that she's already done, and she's only 14. So Lizzie has 2 and Charlie has 1. But when they all came with me, it's one of those things, and that's what I love about the family trips. When they all came, I'm not expecting a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, and an 11-year-old to go out there and build, 8, 9 hours a day. They came out, their stuff that helped put on the blackboard, they helped paint the trim, they helped cut some of the chicken wire. But what they did was they went and built relationships. So we had little kids in the neighborhood. So it's like, here's the bubbles, here's the ropes, here's the brushes. We popped up, a shade tent so they could go out there and just sit and just play with the kids. And that's what really Casas is about. Guys, Casas is what it get built. It's about building relationships. And it's slowing down, hate to say it, but when guys are like, I bet we could build this house in 14 hours. It's always, what's the fastest this house has been built? It's just such a guy mentality. It's like, And for what it's worth, fastest the house has ever been built was all staff by Casas in 6.5 hours. But that's having 30 people who've been there, done that, and throwing calcium, everything. Everything you can know of to speed that process up. They had it all together. By the time the concrete was dry, essentially the house was done. That's just how crazy it was. So fastest, I just got to brag, fastest I've ever done with my teams. I had an all-guy team that's like, how fast can we do this? So they brought the air guns, they brought the extra screw guns, everything you could do to help speed it up. We did 13.5 hours. So yeah, it's just total guy. The house is going to get done, okay? And you said there, well, I don't have any skills. I don't know how to do this. I don't know carpentry. I think I know what you into the hands on. But as you go to do that, I just want you to know when we have a team, they come every year out of Boca Raton, Florida. They bring all 8th graders. And the 8th graders with 4 adults will build a house in 3 days. So, and they don't know how to do it, but Casas has been great about showing people how to do it. Now, there's some things that you can do to cheat. It's not cheat, it's just to make it more efficient. My granddaughters, they can nail the roof nails in for the blackboard and for the chicken wire. They can drive in a 16, we might be there for a while. So Papa went out and bought a DeWalt nail gun. So that all I do is line it up and they pull the trigger. And if you want to see a really big smile on a 10-year-old, watch them the first time that they pull the trigger. It's just like, I got power. But anyhow. So that's the end of day 2. You're going to have the sheetrock on the ceiling and everything ready to go for day 3. When you come in, again, you go back, getting cleaned up, all that kind of stuff. Acuna, I forgot to add this. Acuna has water. There's a huge spring and a huge lake that butt up against the border there. And so if the teams want, you can go out swimming and take a swimming break at the end of the day. Freshwater spring is 55 degrees. It's painfully cold. But it's like hitting the reset button, and that was something that Lexi, who went with me to Juarez the first time, remember we had to pour everything by hand. Then we go to Cunha the next year, and here's the concrete truck, here's the freshwater spring, here's air conditioning. The church we stayed at didn't have it in Juarez. And then she looked at me at the end of the bill, and she's like, Papa, why did we go to Juarez? So she even understood. It's like, yeah, this is just a whole lot different. Day 3, you're going to come back out, and on day 3, this is such a blessing. Day 3, you're going to finish the house, and you're going to dedicate the house. So to finish the house, a lot of times it's like, okay, we got to go out, and you're going to finish the stucco, you're going to finish the sheetrock, and you're going to finish the electrical. That's pretty typical on day 3. And again, if you want to stretch this and make it a 4-day build, I've got a team that I'm building with that first week of June. They're bringing down teenagers, but they want to slow the whole thing down, and they want to spend the afternoons actually hanging with the people in the community, doing like VBS, that kind of stuff. So they asked, can we quit at 2 o'clock so we can stretch it? It's like, sure, So you don't have to do it in 3 days. So, but anyhow, typically day 3, you'll finish up the stucco, you'll finish up the sheetrock, and then at the end of that, you circle up with the team, the family's there, the pastor's there, and then you're able to now share the gospel with the family. And then usually by that time, you have a lot of people in the community that have been watching, and now they're coming over to see what this is all about. We actually have a team, there's a Baptist church out of Alabama. When they come to build, on day 3, they'll get the house done, and then they go out to a local park, and then they have a barbecue grill, they serve hot dogs and drinks, all that kind of stuff. They play ball, wiffle ball, soccer, that kind of games out, kickball, some stuff out there. And then after about 2 hours of that, then they go dedicate the house, and they tell people, hey, we're going to go give this house to this family. If you want to come and hear about it, then that way they can share the gospel to the whole community. So it's kind of one of those things, whatever you want to be creative on, ways to help share the gospel down there, by all means. That's where Casas, it's not cookie cutter, the build is, but it's our heart and our talent. We'd like to do some of these other things, if that's okay. And Casas is more than willing to work with you on that. So then at the dedication, after you're all circled up, you're sharing the gospel. You nail the plaque on still. Unless the stucco's too green, we're screwed on. So, yeah, you learn that real hard after you stand there in dedication, and people go up there and they go to nail it on the door frame, and then the stucco pops off over the top of the door. It's like, okay, should have screwed that one. So they changed that up a little bit. But anyhow, it's such a blessing, and I don't know how to share this. And Ms. Abby, Ms. Jim, Pastor, you guys understand this. You can't. How the Holy Spirit works when you see the family put the last nail in the house. To sit there and say, especially for teenagers, that God used you to make a kingdom difference So that's what Casas is about. That's really what we do. Again, it's all about the kingdom building. So I know we got a ton of time here, but any questions? I mean, that was fairly quick. Any questions? And you're going to hear it again, by the way. Not identical. Everybody's like, I'm skipping church. Any questions?
Typically, what size is the house?
The house is, the footing is 17 feet by 20 feet 2 inches. So, and that goes away, works out on the roof. So you get it to where it's a roof system that is 20 by 24 with the overhanging thing. So they go in and you take the house. Basically, you're building a square, cut it in half. So you have big room, and then you cut the other in half, 2 bedrooms and a big room. Yeah. So in Acuna, well now in both our Mexico locations, we now have the options of adding bathrooms if teams want to add a bathroom. If the family, again, these are all things we have to ask the family. Do they have a site that they can handle a bathroom? So you guys don't build a bathroom, but to give them a bathroom, you put the door in for to go into the bathroom. We actually have Conrado, and he's got a team down there because that all has to be done out of concrete block. Whereas is no humidity, low humidity. Acuna is St. Louis. It's through the roof humidity. So because of that, it has to be concrete block. Otherwise, sheetrock and everything would fall off the walls. The same thing with like mini splits. They went like the heat or air conditioning thing. We can the team adds that as well, and then that's just a matter of changing the electrical on it, and then the family. But we have to ask the family if they want it. Because a lot of families say no. It's like they don't make enough to pay for the electricity, so it's still typical. They're making $50, $60. Minimum wage down there is $5 a day. Right. Yeah. So she asked as far as hooking up the electricity. So if we hooking up the electricity, if they want to run a fan or something like that, it's not bad, you know. But we do have some. That's why with Casas we run about a 15-foot drop outside the house. They have to connect the electricity because depending on the locations. Juarez is famous, especially if you're out in the Anapra zone, where there's electrical wires, so they just go hook them. And you'll see like long poles and hundreds of electrical lines just laying across the ground, kids out playing, running all over them. That still hasn't changed in some locations. Cunya's not quite that way, Juarez.
So they're responsible for getting the electricity hooked up?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and we've had, typically they do, we very rarely do it now, because if you're just running to have lights on or to run a fan, it's not bad. It's what really gets in, well, and we all are familiar with that. It's like having electric on or having your air conditioning or the electric heater on. Yeah, then it just skyrockets the price. So, they use them very sparingly. So with Acuna actually, and that's why we're able to do bathrooms there, they actually have the infrastructure. If they're inside the loop, and that's the city structure down there, so they have water supply and they have sewage. So we're able to actually tap into the sewer line or tap into the water. If not, then it's they do water tanks, 55-gallon plastic barrels. The company comes around and dumps it in. There hasn't been too many that I've seen